The night pressed heavily against the coastline as the Navy SEAL team advanced toward the looming warehouse, their movements silent but precise, each step guided by years of training and instinct. The moon cast a pale glow over the corrugated metal, exterior revealing streaks of rust and patches of decay that hinted at the building's age and secrecy. The team leader raised a gloved hand, signaling the others to halt while he scanned the perimeter for signs of motion. The air felt unnaturally still, as though the warehouse itself were holding its breath, waiting for something to unfold. They approached from the eastern side, where the sand dunes offered cover and a clearer line of entry. The team could sense an underlying tension in the air, a heaviness that suggested they were walking into a place that had seen countless illegal operations over the years. The anonymous tip that had led them here had been disturbingly detailed, describing the exact location of the warehouse and hinting at the presence of an enormous stash of illicit goods. Yet something felt off, as if the information had been delivered too easily, perhaps even intentionally. The SEALs reached the side door, which hung slightly ajar, its hinges creaking ever so faintly as the wind shifted. Though the sound seemed suspiciously out of place, the team exchanged brief glances, communicating wordlessly their training, allowing them to interpret the barest flickers of movement. The point man eased forward and pressed gently against the door, letting it swing inward just enough to reveal a dimly lit interior bathed in flickering fluorescent light. They slipped inside with practiced stealth, their boots gliding across the dusty concrete floor. The air smelled of salt, mold, and something metallic lingering beneath the surface, like the echo of violence long past. Towering stacks of crates loomed in neat rows, stretching toward the far wall, where shadows clung to every corner. The team spread out, moving with caution as they swept their lights across the room. The first crate they examined was filled with bricks of unmarked powder, wrapped in plastic and stacked with meticulous care, an unmistakable sign of a large-scale drug operation. Further in, they found bundles of cash packed tightly into reinforced cases, the sheer amount staggering even to those who had seen cartel operations before. The bills were old and new, mixed together without pattern, suggesting years of accumulation perhaps. From dozens of smuggling runs, the quiet was unnerving, as if the warehouse had been abandoned in a rush, yet everything appeared organized, as though someone had expected to return. Team leader felt a chill crawl along his spine. Something was wrong, very wrong. The tip had mentioned illegal cargo, but not this. Not the overwhelming volume, nor the meticulous organization. This was not a simple smuggling outpost. It was a central hub, a nerve center, where the cartel had funneled their most valuable shipments, yet there were no guards, no lookouts, no signs of recent activity, except for one unsettling detail: the faint warmth of a recently used generator humming deep within the building. Continued forward, flashing their lights between the crates, each beam slicing through the darkness. The farther they went, the more claustrophobic the space became. The shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally, as if clinging to their movements or following just behind them. Every sound from the building seemed amplified: the groan of the rafters, the distant drip of water from a broken pipe, the faint hum of the machinery below. All of it blended together into a symphony of tension that tugged at their nerves. One of the team members paused near a stack of crates and knelt to examine faint footprints imprinted in the dust. They were fresh, too fresh to have been made more than an hour or two earlier, the size and pattern suggested. Several individuals had been moving around the warehouse recently. The direction of the prints led deeper into the building toward a narrow hallway partially obscured by crates. The team leader motioned for everyone to regroup before proceeding. As they navigated the hallway, the structure around them shifted from open warehouse space to a series of cramped passageways lined with old machinery and abandoned equipment. The walls closed in on them, making it increasingly difficult to move without brushing against pipes or wires dangling from the ceiling. The faint sound of footsteps echoed through the corridor, though the team could not determine their source. The noise came in brief intervals, fading quickly, as if someone were trying to mask their presence. The team pressed onward, their senses heightened. With each step, the air grew colder, and the smell of damp concrete mixed with the faint chemical scent associated with drug processing operations. A thin layer of dust coated everything except for a narrow path that had clearly been used recently. The team followed the path until it opened into a small room illuminated by a single flickering bulb hanging overhead inside. The room they discovered a makeshift command center. A table covered in maps, diagrams, and coded documents occupied the center, while several monitors displayed surveillance feeds from around the perimeter of the warehouse. This was no ordinary stash location. It was a coordinated control point for major cartel movements. The monitors showed feeds from cameras. The SEALs had not noticed outside, suggesting the building had been under watch long. Before their arrival, suddenly a faint sound echoed from behind them, a soft shuffle. Like fabric brushing against metal, the team spun around, raising their weapons, but saw only darkness. The shadows seemed to ripple, as though something had just moved through them. The tension in the air thickened, pressing against their chests as they backed. Slowly into a more defensible position, the team leader gestured for them to hold position and wait, but the sense of impending danger grew stronger by the second. A faint vibration trembled through the floor. Barely perceptible, yet unmistakable, something heavy was moving somewhere beneath them. Perhaps machinery, or perhaps something far more menacing than. The lights flickered twice, and the low hum of the generator faltered, plunging half the warehouse into darkness. The SEALs steadied themselves, unsure if the power fluctuation had been accidental or triggered by someone. Monitoring their movements, the team leader scanned the room, noticing for the first time a hidden staircase partially concealed by a metal storage cabinet. It led downward into another level of the warehouse, a level not mentioned in the tip. They had received the realization struck them with chilling clarity. Someone knew they were coming. Someone had prepared for their arrival. And someone was still inside the building, watching from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. Team moved toward the hidden staircase, every step slower and more deliberate than the last. The darkness seemed to swell around them, carrying with it a quiet warning that the secrets buried below the warehouse would not be uncovered easily. As they reached the top of the steps, they felt the temperature drop sharply, the air growing heavy with the weight of an unseen threat lingering just beyond the edge of their vision, and in that breathless moment, suspended between light and shadow. The SEAL team understood that whatever waited beneath the warehouse was far more dangerous than anything they had encountered above. And the true purpose of the anonymous tip was only beginning to reveal itself. The hidden staircase descended into darkness so absolute that even the strongest tactical lights seemed to struggle against it. Each step echoed softly against the concrete walls, carrying a sense of foreboding that settled heavily on the team. The air grew colder with every foot. They descended, and a faint vibration trembled beneath their boots, as though machinery or something far less mechanical was active deep below. The team leader signaled for silence, and they moved carefully into the underground level, unsure of what they would find at the bottom of the stairs. The SEALs emerged into a narrow corridor, lit only by a series of failing emergency lights. Their reddish glow casting long, distorted shadows across the walls. The corridor stretched far into the distance, with several metal doors lining either side, all of them closed and marked with worn numbers. The smell here was different, thick, with chemicals and something else, something older and more unsettling. The team advanced cautiously, sweeping their lights along the walls, noticing scratched markings that suggested someone had moved through in a hurry or struggled to get out. They followed the faint footprints that continued from above, now smeared and uneven, as though the individuals had run or been dragged. The trail led to a large reinforced door at the end of the corridor. The steel surface was dented and scarred, and a faint sound pulsed from behind it. A rhythmic tapping like metal striking metal, followed by a whisper of movement that made the seals tense. The team leader motioned for them to take positions while he pressed his ear to the cold steel, listening for clues. The sound behind the door grew clearer, a shuffling, slow and deliberate, as if whoever or whatever was inside had been waiting for their arrival. The team exchanged uneasy glances, their instincts warning them that the situation had shifted into something far more dangerous than a simple carto stash. They had expected contraband, not a concealed lower level. With reinforced chambers and signs of recent occupations, something about the room felt wrong, profoundly wrong, like a trap designed with careful precision. The door was locked by an electronic system, but it had been damaged recently, wires hanging from its panel, as if someone had attempted to force it open from the inside. The SEAL responsible for breaching examined the circuitry and shook his head silently. The lock was too damaged to disengage.